to hackers. Yeah.
Yeah. Soham says almost as if he's a bit disappointed.
How did you tell? Looks like.
So Soham, let's wait for a minute and then start.
Yeah,
Okay,
we lost Curtis.
Okay, I think he'll come back in. We'll give it a minute.
I love the title of this. It says fast promotion and retire early.
That's the goal.
That's the aspiration, let's just say that.
To be fair, he and Soham and I were thinking about this yesterday. We were saying, hey, we need to come up with a title that sounds really fun. Because the original title was How to Get Promoted.
I see. Okay.
So then we said, hey, we need to do this in a manner that's more fun, more engaging, and that's how we ended up with this. Good. I'm glad you like the title because we spent some time figuring it out.
But I think the retire early part definitely comes from some marketing people.
No, that was us. That was completely us. Our goal was to try and see how do we help people plan a early retirement. No marketing people at all. This is just us.
I see.
All right, folks who just joined, welcome to all of you guys. We maybe start in about 30 seconds or so. We started the room a bit early, and so we have folks just dropping in right now. So give us 30 seconds to a minute. We've got, I think, all the speakers. We've lost Curtis. Steph, can you just reach out to Curtis and see if he's able to join again?
Yep, I went ahead and reached out.
Okay. Oh, he's back. Curtis, we thought we'd lost you.
Sorry about that. Yeah, a friend of mine asked me a question in a room, so I am back.
All right.
How's everybody doing?
Looks like we have most folks here, Curtis. I'm thinking let's just go ahead and get started, and we'll have people dropping in as this comes along. All right, folks, very warm welcome. Good evening to all of you. My name is Ryan. I am one of the founders at Interview Kickstart. We bring these rooms to you guys every Thursday evening at this time, 6:30 p.m. PST. The goal of these rooms is to just explore with experts from all the FAANG set of companies a bunch of different topics that are really fun and interesting around technical careers. To learn more about these rooms and when we do them, just click on my profile, Soham's profile, follow us, click that little bell so you know whenever we are on. And our goal is to keep bringing these incredible rooms to all of you. Today's discussion is particularly fascinating, right? It's an interesting topic. It's about getting promoted early and getting to fire fast, right? This financial independence, retiring early, which is this new buzzword. Looks like now there is this fat fire, right? Retire early and retire fat, which is even more interesting. And so today's topic is about how do you get there as fast as you possibly can. Promotion's obviously a very good way to get there. We have an absolute stellar bunch of folks on the stage today from different companies, playing different roles and with different experience on Clubhouse, right? So without any further ado, let me actually go to each of them and have them introduce themselves very quickly, and then we'll jump into today's discussion. Let's start with my original partner in crime, Soham. Soham, why don't you introduce yourself quickly? Then Steph, Doris, Anthony, Heng, just pretty much the order that's in here. Soham, you wanna kick us off?
Sure. Soham, let's see. I've been doing Interview Kickstart for the last 6 years with Ryan. And before that, I was at Box. I happened to join them very early, and I left at the time of IPO. And I also worked at eBay, gotten promoted several times at eBay, several times at Box. And before that, I've also worked at companies that I didn't stay too long to get promoted as well. And then before that was school. But yeah, that's roughly the introduction, and all the way through computer science or software engineering.
Awesome. So, Steph, you want to say a quick hello?
Yep. So I'm Steph. I've actually been with Interview Kickstart for about 4 years now. And even before, so I'm managing the operations here and starting to build a community with our team. And before that, I was actually a chiropractor.
That is quite a change, Steph, chiropractor to coming to interview Kickstart, but great to have Steph here as well. Doris.
Hi, everyone. So I'm at Netflix now. I manage a recruiting team for engineers. Prior to that, I was at Facebook for about 7 years, managing recruiting teams for legal, policy communications, and some of the executive hiring for Mark and Cheryl.
Anthony.
Hello, everyone. This is Anthony. I currently work at Facebook. I currently lead a team that's working on our ads machine learning models, making big changes to it. And I've been here about 18 months or so. I mostly have a financial background.
Cool. Hien. Apart from the stellar profile picture, tell us about yourself.
Something unique again. Hi everyone, my name is Heng Liu, and I currently work at DoorDash. Been there about a year. Before that, I was at LinkedIn for a long time. Also have a short stint at Uber, and then before that was at Netflix. I was able to manage a few promotions, probably not as many as what Soham was able to do.
Awesome.
Being modest there.
Tom.
Hello, my name is Chao, so I'm very glad to be here. So currently I'm working at Google as a tech lead manager, managing a small team engineers. Has been with Google for almost 3 years. Before that, I work at like LinkedIn, Salesforce, those different companies. Today, very excited to be here. Yes.
Cool, Chao. Tom, you wanna give the quick intro?
Absolutely. Hi, my name is Tom. I've worked at companies like LinkedIn, eBay, PayPal. Before that, I was at a startup, and before that, I was an educator. And I'm one of those people who are working towards financial independence.
Like the rest of us, Tom.
Yeah, always.
Strong. Welcome back.
Hi, everybody. My name is Strong, and currently work at Google, leading a SRE team, and previously at Uber. So I heard that Hien has been at Uber as well. I was there for 4 years and managed to go from a senior IC to manager role there. Yeah, the topic of financial retire early. Yeah, so I think it's attractive to everybody.
Let's hope so, Strong. Well, let's hope so, Strong. Curtis.
Hi, my name is Curtis. I am an Interview Kickstart alum as of 2018. I was at Google when I was first going through Interview Kickstart, and as I was there as a temp, and I, after Interview Kickstart, left Google, went to go work for a couple other companies, and then I did some consulting and all that. Then I'm actually currently back at Google as a vendor, working through a marketing company. So it's kind of like full circle, but I'm still utilizing a lot of the skills that I learned at Interview Kickstart.
Awesome, Curtis. Good to have you here.
Thanks, Curtis.
Most of us on here are newbies, Curtis, on Clubhouse. You seem like you've been here for a while. You seem to have built a very strong following, so great to have you. Suvi.
Thank you. Happy to be.
Hello, my name is Suvi Demir. I'm a staff software engineer at Google. Last year, I spent a year at Facebook, then came back to Google again. Originally, I joined Google in 2013, and I got promoted from 4 to 5, 5 to 6. I have been a manager as well. So I have been through the promotion cycles and have seen how it is.
Perfect. Welcome, Suvi.
Perfect.
Thank
Boomerang, Suvi. That's pretty good. Didn't know that.
Yep.
Congrats.
And last but not the least, let's go to Adam. Adam, welcome back.
Oh, hi. I was intended to be just an audience. I didn't expect to be put up to the speaker column, but I might serve as a counter example of not wanting, or well, it's not that black and white, but I tried manager for a year while I was in Sun Microsystem. And then after that, I want to be individual contributor. So I have been individual contributor since for many years already. Oh, I didn't introduce myself. So my name is Adam. Right now, I'm working in Google. Before that, Apple. Before that, PayPal. Before that, before that, Cisco, and then Sun Microsystem. So I've been in the industry for 28 or maybe 29 years already. So again, I tried management briefly, and I was offered another opportunity in PayPal to be manager, but I hesitated. And then I left without without follow through that offer. Yeah.
Awesome, Adam. Good to have somebody who's gone the other way, right? Always good to get all perspectives. All right, guys, we've gotten through all the intros. Let's dive deep in quickly. Before we do that, folks, what I'm going to request all of you to do is ping in people who you might know, who you think could benefit from this. As you can tell, we've got a bunch of folks from pretty much a bunch of stellar companies: Google, Facebook, Netflix, LinkedIn, all across. Ping people in. You'll have to press the plus button at the bottom of your screen and just invite anybody that you think might get value from this as we move along. All right, Doris, I'm going to start with you, right? So let's start with a warm-up question. I think one of the things that folks have written to us asking is, when you think of the promotion process, is it a passive process where you wait for the company to let you know that you are ready to get promoted and work through the typical systems? Or do you need to actively manage it as a process yourself and not depend on the company process passively? So is the promotion process an active process or a passive process, and how does one go about thinking about it? Doris.
Awesome. Thanks for the question. So I think it's a little bit of both. And maybe the typical answer would be you own your own career and you're supposed to advocate for yourself. And of course, while that's true, it's all about timing. And so, yes, in all the companies that I've been at, there's been different levels of advocacy. So, for example, at Google, I spent a short time there, but my understanding is that you would almost put yourself up for a promotion. Managers there would be open with their direct report on, am I going to support this? Am I not? Is it the right time? And so you're both kind of going into the promotion cycle together. And that's kind of how you find out. So that's a nice way to do it. At Facebook, it was a little bit of the opposite, in the sense where you didn't know if you were up for promotion, because they would use the model of lagging versus leading, which is you have to demonstrate that you can perform at the next level consistently for a period of time, for about 6 months, before they would say, hey, let's promote you. And the scope had to be there and had to be sustainable in forward future years. So although you could do really well in one half, if your job is not going to be able to sustain that, and you're not going to work on meaty projects in that way, then even doesn't matter how great you are, I think promo is a little hard there to do, in terms of when you're just looking at lagging versus leading. And then at Netflix, promotions are very interesting because there aren't levels. And so I actually am so fascinated to come to Netflix, because I'm still learning about it and it's fascinating. But in a system where there isn't clear levels on, hey, you need to do X, Y, Z, and now you have a case for promotion, you kind of have to even advocate for yourself even more. And the philosophy at Netflix for compensation is that they pay top of market. So if you do get competitive offers externally, that is a data point where we might say, hey, and think about, is this your top of market now? You could get this offer externally. Should we match or exceed that? So there's a lot more that goes into that. It's not as simplistic as I'm making it sound. But in that sense, there's a little bit of courage. There's a little bit of braveness that comes out of it. But the transparency is actually really refreshing. So I'm working with one of the directors there now who he loves Netflix, wants to stay and continue that. He has some competing offers externally, and so has market data. And so just having a really frank conversation on where we think his compensation should be and the reasons why. There's an element of partnership and control that he may have working with us, and it's not so much of a Netflix dictates all. So it's kind of fascinating, but I'll say getting good at the style in which you get comfortable in talking about your own compensation and your own leveling, and maybe coming at it from a perspective of seeking to understand why you are leveled the way you are or why you're compensated the way you are, I think can lead to a lot of good things.
So just quickly before I go to anybody else, a follow-up question on that, Doris. Have you noticed that, given that you've been at Google, Facebook, and then Netflix, have you noticed that the degree of passivity or activity, so, pardon the usage of the terms, in terms of getting promoted at these different companies, does that vary significantly across the three companies, or is it pretty much the same?
There are trends, I would say. When I was at Facebook, I think because it was scaling so quickly, you saw promotions happen left and right? It grew from 3,000 to 50,000 in a span of 7 years, which is kind of nutty. And so due to that growth, people who are naturally there never had the question of, is there enough scope for me? Is there enough room for me? Or do I need to wait for my boss to retire or leave? And so from a growth trajectory standpoint, I think Facebook is phenomenal for that. Where the leveling piece got hard is as the company scaled and expanded, performance reviews were always tough to get right and equitable per se. So this is my own personal opinion. This is not true in every team. Yeah. So that's my perspective on Facebook, which means if you want a growing scope, just look at the trajectory of the company and you'll probably just naturally be at the right place at the right time. That's what I found in my own career as well. At Google, it was in a lot of the candidates and executives I was speaking to, once they would get to that kind of level 6, level 7, you did have to kind of wait for a director to leave if you wanted to stay within your team. But that being said, Google is also such a large company that if you did want to transfer, you could. And so, you can look at career growth in that way. And then with Netflix, I think what I'm seeing so far is it's a smaller company. It's an 8,000 person company. And so maybe the opportunity isn't on scope of role isn't as expansive because you don't see the 40% increase year over year type thing. But the way that Netflixers, I think, are valued in terms of they have a thing called the keeper test, and the longer that you stay at Netflix and the more value add that you have, your keeper, the amount that they will pay you to retain you is probably stronger than what you would receive at other companies coming in brand new. So I guess to give you some examples, I've seen folks who maybe traditionally, if you just look at years of experience, you're like, wow, that's what you're getting paid and leveled at, versus if they maybe applied to a larger company like Facebook and Google, only looking at years of experience alone, they would probably be considered overpaid at Netflix, if that makes sense.
Awesome. I'm going to go the other extreme. Heng, DoorDash is a much younger company, right? And a recent IPO. What's it like there? Do I need to actively manage my promotion process, or is it more system driven?
Yeah, so DoorDash is, like you said, is a relatively young company, but the folks that are joining or have joined have a lot of experience from working at Google's and Uber's and stuff like that. So they brought a lot of good practices around promotions to DoorDash. So there is a pretty well established and process around promotion with transparency and so on. But back to one comment from Doris, as also you said, is also from the manager perspective as well. As an individual, it would be good for you to actively manage your promotion process, right? If you get into a brand new company, find out what is that process looks like. At least you learn about it. And I think some companies might be able to share like the promotion package from previous other engineers that you can also learn from. So let me stop there if you have further questions.
All right, no, I think that's good. Soham, let me come to you.
Uh-oh.
Any any specific, let's say, hacks that you can think of, given that it is to a great extent active, right? What are some of the active hacks that one should be aware of with specifics? Maybe if you've got a couple of examples of where you've seen this happening to help you get to that promotion construct in a slightly faster manner.
I suppose I wouldn't call them hacks per se, but I mean there are some well-known things. Are one is to latch on to a manager who gets promoted. If you don't know what to do, latch on to someone who you feel like, who you see really keeps getting promoted from one level to the other, and if you have a trusted relationship with them, then they will keep pulling you up with it. So that's one way to sort of supercharge this on it. Sometimes you don't have a manager like that, and manager influence is also quite strong in your promotion process. So you have to take control of that process. Like one way I've seen it done is one of my colleagues at eBay. She did this extremely well. She would go to the manager and say, "Show me your OKRs. What can I take off of your plate?" And that's a very win-win situation being created there. And manager loves it, and obviously once you make it happen, I mean, you get promoted as well. So those are some of the well-known things as well. And obviously there are things to be said about finding opportunities within the company, which I think we'll talk about a bit later as well.
So to add to that, Soham, one thing you can do is to help your manager look good so that he or she continues to pull you up with her.
Yes.
Basically,
yes.
Make it a team play.
Make them look good. Yes, that is true. I mean, yeah, it sounds slightly negative, so to speak, but it's actually not. I mean, the point is to create a win-win situation in this entire thing.
So actually, many people do think of this as a negative construct, right? But like Soham said, it's not at all. And here's why, right? If you are aligned with what your manager is trying to achieve, and you are effectively trying to make them look good, you are effectively trying to help them achieve what they need to do, and hopefully that rolls up all the way, right? So effectively, if done well, that is aligning to everybody's OKRs, right, and the company's OKRs. Now, anybody else before I move into a little bit deeper? Curtis.
Sure. So, I mean, if you think about it in the reverse, right, your bosses or your immediate direct reporting manager, their problems become your problems, because if they have to take on a Herculean task that they've got to undergo, they're going to try to delegate it if they have that good management gene. But the same thing, right? I think to some degree you have to manage your managers. That's why you see at different companies they have open calendars. You look and see, what's on that calendar for today? Let me go and see what I can extract from there or take on or tackle, because you got to realize the more that person is spending in those meetings that are unnecessary that you should be involved in, that takes away from them actually managing and leading and focusing on a strategic future. So if you can do that, then you've made yourself a bigger asset instead of just like a person that's there waiting for instructions.
Okay, great point, Curtis.
So okay, good. So there's something really valuable in terms of finding the right manager, looking for the right folks, and then working closely with your manager, either helping them on their OKRs, taking stuff off their plate, making them look good. Strong, you are going to add something?
Yeah, I just want to chime in here before I hop off. I think from what I've seen, is mostly a very active process, unless you have, like people said, you have a manager that's very ambitious and that has everything planned out, like going after big things, right? So if somebody's on the strategic, like 2-year, 3-year projects and it's progressing really well, I think it sounds. I'm talking about it at Google or the context of Uber. Then as long as you're on a project and doing fine and you will get the opportunity. But most of the time, it's not the case. Right? For most like at least I myself have never been that, like, just on that kind of projects, right? So you have to look for those kind of opportunities and ask your manager about it. So it's very much for most
Strong,
people.
can you give me an example of a couple of things that, let's say, you did actively either at Uber or Google that helped you move up? Something that you personally did?
Yes, I certainly can. So at Uber, for example, I saw there that my manager had was very distracted by another team that he had to manage, that there were lots of fires to fight all the time. So he really didn't have much attention to spare on my team. So then I you know, there are problems to fix on the team, both organizationally and just strategically. So I just talked to the director, so basically his boss. He said, I see that there's some opportunities to improve here. What do you think, right? So he shared his perspective. That got a conversation going. So that was like a big step up for a big first step for me, talking to my manager's manager. But that ended up giving me the opportunity to become the manager of of my sub team, right? So I become a manager, helping my manager at the time to manage that part.
Awesome. All right, guys, I'm actually going to move to the next set of questions that I want to explore as we move along, right? And that is fundamentally just helping folks, and maybe we explore the whole promotion process in a little bit more detail, right? Trying to understand how exactly does this process work. Tom, I'm going to come to you first. Maybe pick your brain about some of the stuff that you've done at LinkedIn, right? Now, at LinkedIn, do you guys follow the OKR process? How does it work? How do you get assessed by the system to check if you are actually ready to get promoted?
Well, there's definitely OKRs set for each quarter, and when it comes time to do reviews and to talk about promotions and whatnot, that happens I think twice a year now. I think it used to be once a year, maybe twice a year, but I think technically it can happen every quarter now. That was before I left, and the process for that was the managers would get together. We would discuss all the talent. One of the things I really liked about LinkedIn was that there was no forced leveling of giving people specific like, well, we had to give 5%, it does not meet, and of 10% and meet some, there was nothing like that. Everybody that was there got the rating that they deserved, and I think that's one of the benefits of being at a place like LinkedIn, when they work so hard to hire the right people, and you might have a very high performing team. So the process was multifold. It was the managers would get together and talk about the work that was done for each individual. It was a very long process. We would talk about the things that they had done over the course of over the last several months, or the last half, or the last year, and what we were looking for, it was a repetitive behavior, something that we could see as a recurring behavior, a recurring thing, and somebody who was constantly shooting above where they were, and taking on more, and developing more leadership skills with other teams, and so there was that, and then there was also the feedback from the staff engineers and the principal engineers, and because they would interact with them a lot. So their input was very much, it was probably one of the most influential things about getting promoted.
Interesting. So guys, for anybody here, has anybody been in an environment where 360-degree feedback was actively solicited, or is actively solicited on a regular basis to get people promoted?
Yes.
So Avi, can you just talk a bit about that 360-degree feedback and how it works, and that promotion is not just about managing your manager. It's a lot more.
It's not just managing about your manager. In fact, if your manager says, I want to promote this person, that opinion may be discounted in Google, actually. Because
I
they
see.
will think
That's
that
very
your
interesting.
manager has motivation to promote you. They want to hear from other people, your peers and others that you work with, higher level engineers, L+1, L+2. So if they actually say, hey, we would like to see this person promoted, then it is more likely. And that also helps the case where earlier we said, you need to get help from your manager and so on. Sometimes the manager is just not there. He or she is not present. Not present as in he's not interested, or he doesn't agree, out of the loop, or he's just sleeping. So you may end up in such a state too, even if you are doing a great job. Without someone's a higher level's explicit support, you cannot get anywhere. So in those cases, again, you may, for example, I was in IBM long time ago, and my manager would not appreciate the technical complexity of the work I had been doing, but a distinguished engineer actually pulled me, and that's how I got promoted. So someone higher up, that doesn't have to be your manager, if they can sponsor you on this journey, then it helps.
Awesome. So just 1 second, one follow-up question, and either to Suvi or Doris, any one of you. So from what I'm hearing, this is not really a function of your manager. It's more a function of a performance, or let's say promotion committee. Is that the case at any of these companies?
Ryan, I'll jump in here. So it's 360s or performance cycles, summary cycles, whatever you want to call them. It is a function for the company to make sure that people are giving feedback to each other. So that's the intent. And then I think what results from it is a cycle in which everyone's doing an assessment and calibrating talent with each other. So although many companies will say we're not comparing you with each other, I think the comparison point is always there. That happens in a lot of calibration rooms. And so that's how promotions happen too. So to your point, Suvi, I've been in rooms where I've worked with another person, and I've said, actually, I don't agree with that rating. I think that you should give him a higher rating because X, Y, Z. So in that sense, the advocation actually still stemmed from the employee themselves, because they actually wrote their self-review in such a way where it reminded me of all these qualities, where I said, you know what, that person is doing way more than my person who is at the same level. We should give them a higher rating, or we should even consider a promotion. So I know this is a little tactical per se, and Ryan, it just wasn't touched on. So another way to advocate for yourself, if it's not in the form of verbal, then it's essentially keeping a work diary of all the impact that you've done, tying it into your team's objectives, tying it into the company objectives, and really stating, if not for you, these things wouldn't have happened. And that's just a very clear way to advocate for yourself.
Awesome. Work diary is a good tip, Doris, because otherwise you tend to forget, right, over time, what you did, why you did, what impact it made. That's quite interesting. Soham, you were saying something earlier when I asked a follow-on question.
No, I think we covered most of those points. I think it is important to mention something called rubrics, right? Every level has a set of rubrics to say, what does this level mean? What does L3 mean? What does L4 mean? 5, 6, 7 mean? Like at Box, for example, we had, as SVP engineering, we had someone who had been at Google for a long time. And when he came in, he instituted that entire process. We had very thoroughly described rubrics at each level, at each ladder. So rubrics for like a solutions engineer would be different from rubrics in a software engineer. And like Suvi said, there was a promotion committee. Promotion committee had people who were at least 2 levels above you. So if you were going from L3 to L4, the committee would have L5s and above. And they would review the packet. The manager would have little say in the process. We were very small at the time, so manager would have some say, but as company grew, it became more and more distant as well. And so and 360 feedback, yes, as well. So not just from people present in the committee, but also one had to get feedback from the peers as well. There was 360 feedback even otherwise as every 6 month or yearly cycle, but especially for promos that was considered. Promo cycles are also aligned to the half yearly and yearly reviews as well. So it was highly structured process, and one had to demonstrate how they are meeting everything in the rubrics for it. So, and similarly, the promo committees are different for like every level. If you're going from like senior manager to director, then promo committees would have VPs in them, like that.
Now, guys, just to get a 360-degree view, and just to cover all types of companies. So this process is obviously fairly well structured at some of the larger companies, right? Especially the FAANG companies. What about other startups? I think a bunch of you have actually worked in early stage startups as well. Is the promotion process fundamentally different? Can one get promoted much faster there? How does it work in, let's say, startups that are not as advanced as some of these larger companies? And anybody feel free to chime in here. Heng, let me pick your brain on that. DoorDash, I wouldn't say startup, but IPO. But so let's say DoorDash a few years ago, very fast growing, rocket ship. What was it like there? Was it as organized? Could you get promoted much faster than you were, let's say, when you were at Uber, or even Uber, when Uber was absolutely speeding away? Do companies that are growing at that pace lend themselves to get promoted much faster?
Yeah, so Ryan, I've been at DoorDash only a year, so unfortunately I don't have the answer for what was it like a couple of years ago. I think I had a little bit of experience at Uber in the early days. Usually it starts out within that organization, there's some kind of a promotion process to start out with. Then it evolves over time as the company matures, as there are more and more employees in the company, to make sure that process is fair and transparent. So usually some startup they have some informal, but usually if the company recognizes that the process needs to be fair and transparent, then they would more likely move to a more formal process.
And guys, is this also a function? I don't think we've covered this as yet. So Avi, maybe I'll ask you, or anybody else who feels they can answer this appropriately. Now, there are multiple levels, right? So you can move up L3, L4, L5 as an IC, then you start moving into management. Is the tenure different? Is the process different? Are the things you need to do fundamentally different if you are climbing up the IC ladder versus, let's say, moving from IC to EM and then moving from EM to a director? How does the level difference affect the way one thinks about promotions? So maybe we start with you and then we can have people chime in. Or yes, Swavi, go ahead.
At higher levels, for example, if you are getting promoted to L6, then leadership matters more. In lower levels, it may not matter as much. So from that perspective, the higher you go, the more emphasis there is on leadership and impact on multiple teams and so on. Basically, the scope is bigger, but also there's a people dimension to it, even if you're on IC ladder. Now, I have not been a people manager myself. I have always been on the technical side of the ladder, so I cannot chip on that side. But if there is anyone else who can add on the people management side of it, I will let them go.
So Soham, at Box, you were a director there very early, right? So just talk about the difference in the IC promotion process, IC to EM, and then EM to director.
Yeah, so I think the first thing to realize is that in order to get promoted, in order to like aim that early retirement and such, you don't need to move to management. Like Suavi said, you could be just getting promoted on the technical side as long as you keep taking projects which with larger and larger influence, and you influence the technical direction of the BU you are in, or the company as a whole if the company is small. Like, you can get promoted just on the engineering side, and nearly all companies what they're solved today, tech companies, they have ladders which are independent of management, right? The at the same time, like again to Savi's point, you can't have zero leadership skills if you are getting promoted on the tech side from L6 through L7, L7 to L8, L8 to L9, like that. You have to demonstrate leadership skills. You have to demonstrate influencing skills in that technical ladder also. But you don't have to take onus of the careers of people below you. Right? You have to influence them technically and organizationally, but you're not responsible for career development of people with you. While on the engineering management side, you also have to demonstrate that you are responsible for career management of people who report into you. So that's a big difference. The one big misconception people have is that they can just they have so first big misconception people have is that they have to be a manager, which is not true. The second big misconception people have is that they can switch ladders pretty easily. That is actually not true. The more senior you grow, the switching between the two ladders, between IC and management, becomes less and less porous. You can't just become from a distinguished engineer. You can't just become a VP, SVP like that. I mean, that just doesn't happen. So so choose the ladder carefully as well. Up until like almost up to about principal engineer to director mapping, you could still move laterally. Even that becomes difficult. But after that, it's you just have to sort of pick the ladder and move. And otherwise, there's nothing really that stands out in between these two ladders. On the technical side, you have to demonstrate continuous technical influence and match to the rubrics. Right? Every company has its rubrics at each level. And on the management side, you have to demonstrate career development. You demonstrate like org-wide leadership, right? On that stuff.
All right. Okay. So I'm going to come to Anthony next, but before I do that, and guys, we're going to move to the next set of things that we want to explore, which is, hey, we've talked about getting promoted internally, right? There is also the opportunity to move companies, right, and use that as a way to get promoted. So I think the next thing I want to explore is talking about how you can leverage a switch in companies as a means of getting promoted. But before that, we're kind of midway through the room right now, so I want to do a quick reset. We've had a bunch of people joining us. Folks, my name is Ryan. I am a founder at Interview Kickstart along with Soham. We bring these rooms every Thursday evening, 6:30 p.m. PST. We bring a bunch of our instructors, coaches on board from Interview Kickstart. We've got Doris, Heng, Anthony, Tom, Chao, Suvi, Adam, instructors, coaches, a couple of alumni here. Every Thursday, our goal is to have folks from the top set of companies, usually from the FAANG set of companies, discussing something that is of meaning for technical careers. Today's topic is fascinating. It's about how you can leverage promotions, get promoted fast to retire early. If you wanna follow us, go ahead and do that by clicking our profiles. That's the fastest way to learn about the next set of rooms that we have. Now with that reset, let me go to Anthony. Anthony, you actually switched industries, right? You were in the banking part of the world. You were in the East Coast, and you switched. You spent time at Interview Kickstart, then switched to Facebook, if memory serves me right. Right. So, can you talk about that experience a bit, Anthony, and tell us how you used the switch to help you with a move, either from a promotions perspective, compensation increase? How did you think about switching as a way to move up in your career?
Right. So earlier I was working on Wall Street, right? I had been a tech lead and I became a manager. I was a people manager of a team, but I felt the scope of technologies I was working on was kind of very limited, right? I wasn't really growing in terms of skills and expertise. So one of my goals with switching was to broaden my experience and work with one of the biggest tech companies, one of the FAANG companies. So that was my main goal with making the switch. And I think it did improve me career-wise in terms of knowledge and experience. I wouldn't specifically call it a promotion in this case, but more of a switch from somewhat a management line to more a technical oriented line. But still, I would say the impact is extremely high. For example, in my previous role, right, I was impacting the work of 5 to 10 people in a team. And right now, maybe it's just the way Facebook is. The impact is across like a huge section of the organization, like almost at a entire vertical level. So there's a huge change in impact, which also reflects in things like PSC, promotion, or even compensation. And the thing to understand is sometimes you don't always need to get a promotion, especially in FAANG, to see a big jump in RSUs and other things like that. There is a way to also get compensation without a promotion. Yeah, that's what I wanted to add.
Okay, cool. Suavi, just quickly touching on something that you mentioned earlier, and I'm not sure if I got that right. You were at Google, you left and you came back to Google, is that right?
Yes, that is right.
Okay, so that's like the boomerang, right?
Yes.
You go, you come back. We have Curtis back on. Hi, Curtis. So talk to us about that, Swavi. Did this going out of Google, spending some time, coming back to Google, the boomerang? How did that work for you?
Well, so far it works nice. I wanted to do something different. Basically, in Google, when I left, I was in the chat group, and work-life balance was not there. So I went to Facebook. Not famous for work-life balance, but wasn't as bad as what I was having. However, in Facebook, we had different challenges. To make the story short, when Google said, "Do you want to come back?" Basically, after a year, you have the option to go back without an interview if you have left in good terms. So I took that offer and I moved to Cloud SQL to do something different. And one of the reasons I took this over is I want to learn cloud side of things because when I left Google, I was thinking about startup and things like that. And I could utilize these kinds of skills. One of the things that bothers me in these bigger companies is all of the infrastructure in Google, in Facebook, it is very proprietary. Isn't when you leave the company, you want to do your own startup, you cannot use much of this. But cloud isn't like that. So that is one positive side. And from a career perspective, I came back at the same level. So no change there. I did not use it for promotion or anything. When I went to Facebook, basically Google, I was L6, Facebook E6, again Google L6. So I did not use it for promotion or anything like that.
I see. So many students, right, who've come through the program who have used Interview Kickstart as a stepping stone to changing to a distinctly better job and getting promoted in the process. Do you want to talk a bit about how you can actually use a job switch? Oftentimes, if you aren't getting a promotion or the environment is not equipped for a promotion right now at the company that you're at, how do you use a job switch as a way to actually get promoted?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty straightforward, but can be tricky to do. You have two opportunities, right? When you switch your job, you could ask for a promotion or level jump at the same time. It's a negotiation tactic. So some people use it as a negotiation tactic with the existing company. Some people just want to get promoted because they couldn't at the existing place. But it is possible to negotiate that when you switch to say, "Hi, I'm level X. I would like to go to level X plus one." Now, those transitions among big companies are very well understood. So there are also rubrics around that now. If somebody's coming from Google at a certain level and wanted to go to Facebook at another level, I mean, there is a list of things that they have to meet and such. But many other companies, many of the pairs of companies, those things are not very well laid out. So you could get a higher title at a different company. That's your first opportunity. And second opportunity is to come back at the same time as the same title in the existing one, or you switch at the same title in a different company, and then when you are coming back, you come back at a higher title. So much easier said than done for sure. But a lot of people do that as well. And And sometimes it works sort of both ways in your favor if you time it right and if you're a bit lucky as well.
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit.
Yeah,
So,
Curtis, I was just coming to you. Yeah.
oh, no problem. Sorry, Ryan. Yeah, I think leverage is always a good thing. I mean, it's not like you hate your current employer, but you also got to keep in mind that, you know, that's exactly what the relationship is, where, you know, you're an employee and they are the employer. And so you have to realize from clearly just a HR standpoint, you are a line item in a spreadsheet, and they can kind of see what you make and what your value is to the company. But at the same time, like, your job is to really provide for your family and find the best deal out there. So in amount of leverage really is about not having a standoff, right? You don't want it to be a standoff situation, but you want it to be a match situation where if you're moderately still happy with where you are, I mean, you can use it as leverage, right? You can say, hey, I got this offer. I think it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. But if you folks would try to level me up within X amount of time, or give me a promotion or a raise or whatever within this amount of time, then I'll put that in a drawer and file it away. But sometimes it backfires if you don't really have anything in hand, right? So my advice would be to kind of have something really solid and really defined in hand, whether it be the in generation of an offer letter or you've passed background check, and really honestly just be as upfront as possible. Hey, I have this opportunity. I feel like I'm at a stall here. If there's anything that can change my mind, it's this, and this. So if all those things are true, then I'll stay. But some employers look at it as, and I mean, I'm not here to judge whether it's right or wrong. They look at it as, well, if money's the only reason, or if X is the only reason to keep you, then we don't want you. But the fact is that it's a business relationship, period. It's not about, oh, we love you and all that. Like you're there to literally pay your bills and do an exchange for your time for money. And of course, sometimes we enjoy the work we do, of course. But just keep in mind, it's a business deal first, because the company itself is going to do what's good for them from a business angle. So you have to kind of look at it from that. You are in the business of you, and you should act accordingly.
Awesome, guys. I think I'm going to throw this open to questions. Folks, we've got a bunch of very, very experienced people up on the stage. We've got Doris, who's been at Google, Facebook, and now at Netflix as a recruiter. We've got Anthony at Facebook, Heng at DoorDash, Tom was at LinkedIn, Chao Google, Suvi Google. I think Adam's also at Google, and Curtis at Google as well. So a lot of Googlers here. So folks, if anybody's got questions, just raise your hands, right? While I'm waiting for people to raise their hands and take questions, right, I'm going to just wrap this up by just going through the compensation that we typically see for people at different levels, right? Just so you get a sense of how, as you move up in the promotion cycle, your ability to retire faster goes up massively, right? So L3 typically around 200K, and this is obviously cash plus equity. L4, 250 to 300. L5, 300 to 350. L6 starting to hit 450 to $500,000. L7 about 550, 600, and L8 650 and above, right? So the numbers are extremely meaningful, right? It's absolutely the right thing to do, to take your career by the scruff of the neck, actively manage it, and create those opportunities for you to move up. I think Naveen, you had a question. I'm going to bring you up to the stage, Naveen, and maybe we take questions, guys. Let's take a bunch of questions before we wrap this up. Yes, Naveen.
Hey Ryan, so I have like 3 questions.
Okay, go for it.
So in 360-degree feedback, the junior developers in the team, do they also have a take in the discussion with the manager for our promotion?
Okay, guys, just feel free, anybody on the stage, feel free to take the questions. Som.
Yeah, do they have a thing? Not so much. I mean, in some sense, you have put forward your packet, and that's your chance. And beyond that, you're not present in those deliberations. Right? So you are either being represented. So somebody potentially is your champion, and that's the end of it. The rest of it is just your work and what you've put together as a packet. And did I understand the question correctly?
So I was saying, when the manager is making a decision, they discuss with the team members on how about our work, the quality of work, how good team player we are, and everything. So in that, let's say I'm L5, will L4, L3 people have a contribution in making that decision?
In the 360 feedback, yes, 360 then. It
Okay.
doesn't matter who, what level.
I see. Okay. Yeah, that's what I was.
Because you're also supposed to be doing it well with that. Yeah. Got it.
My next question is, some people actually also change teams within the same company. Does that also bump up the salary?
That's a good question. Suvi, you want to answer that?
I have not seen that happen.
Sorry, not at my company. I think the team changes generally don't get a promotion or hike.
Yep, that's
Okay.
that's what the understanding is as well. Yeah. So there are some exceptions to that. If you move like into a recent acquisition or vice versa and stuff, you might get that, but generally not.
Well, I'd also like to point out too, there's sort of an unspoken agreement that other managers won't try to lure other employees away into other teams by promising them a promotion. And because a promotion is not up to a manager. So I just leave it there.
I see. Okay. And last question, in how many months someone can get promoted again? If let's say we are discussing with the manager every quarter.
So if you are, so it doesn't mean, so typically I've seen people get through promotions every couple years, but I have seen it go faster than that. So the whole reason for having every quarter as a possible promotion cycle is so that the person who's up for promotion doesn't have to wait like at the end of the year to get the promotion. And so, so it's not that you get promoted faster. You still have to demonstrate a pattern of leadership behavior and successful projects and good mentorship as well.
I see. Okay. And last question, it's Ryan. Actually, you just mentioned about the levels. At what level someone can make what amount of income, the base salary and the RSUs. So I have also heard that when you are getting promoted to a next level in the same company, that promotion bump is not equivalent to the same jump in the next in other company, like E5 to E6. I mean, in L6 is actually better in Google, but E5 to E6 in Facebook is not going to give you that much of bump. Is it still true, or is it how does that work?
Doris, you've been at Facebook, Google, and now Netflix. Is that the case, that if you get promoted within the same company, you don't get as much as a jump as you might get if you, let's say, move to a separate company?
So it depends on your negotiating skills, I guess, and then the type of company that you're going to. And comp is just, it just varies a lot. But if you do get promoted internally at the same company, let's say there's levels, typically that looks like a 15% increase. And depending on where you sit in terms of, so if you're a level 5 and you sit at the top of band already, when you get promoted to a level 6, you are going to come in at the midpoint because now you have to prove yourself at the level 6, right? So maybe that increase is not as big. That being said, if you are sitting at the midpoint level for a level 5 and you get promoted to level 6 and you go to the midpoint, then yeah, you're going to see a higher percentage increase. So do you have to leave to get a bigger raise and all that? I think it ties back to scope of role. So if you are hitting a ceiling at your current company and you're feeling like, oh gosh, the projects are so and things are getting repetitive, I can't find those projects here, I have to go look externally, then that actually probably does correlate and tie directly into how much you'll be compensated. So I guess it is. My answer is it's situational and it depends. But I will say that when you do consider an external company, the external company is going to try to pay more for you because they want to incentivize you to 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 start your journey with them, right? So in that sense, I mean, I just have to be honest here too. Most people do see a raise when they leave companies. But one thing to be wary of, if a company is paying a premium for you because they really want to take the talent from from their competitor, and they're paying you at top of band to start, you might not see heavy increases at that new company for a little bit of time. So if, let's say, you're coming in at top of level 6 and they paid you at max band, and they cannot pay you any more, that doesn't leave a lot of room for raises, even if it's incremental, right? So that's something to keep in mind. You might sit at that level for a long time.
All right, thanks, Doris. All right, Naveen, I'm going to move you back to the audience.
Thanks.
No worries. Hari Krishnan and then Anand, and then let's wrap this up. Hari Krishnan, you got a question? You'll have to unmute, Hari.
Sorry, I didn't have a question, but I wanted to add to one of the answers about, the other people's role in getting in your promotion. So I have experience at Facebook as a manager. For manager promotes, what matters is there is some voting system, like a pulse or something like that, where the people that report to you or the peers, have a voting, like, how much do they like you on a scale of 1 to 5, right? That has to be pretty high on that axis to get promoted. So for manager promotes, it does matter how others, look up at you, right? So that's very important for, at least at Facebook. That's my experience I wanted to share.
All right, thanks, Hari. Thanks for sharing. Anand, you had a question?
Hey guys, this is Anand, currently at Facebook, Jan 2016 alumni. First and foremost, hi to Soham, a long time. Hey Soham. Second question. So I
Hey
have a
man.
couple of. Hey. So I have a couple of questions. So I'm like hardworking and passionate, but my promotions have come basically via the IK skills that I've acquired. Like from Walmart, I went to LinkedIn. From LinkedIn, I went to Facebook. I plan to settle at Facebook. My question is, do we need specific political or communication skills to go to the next level, and how do we not oversell? So one is the normal question, political or communication skills, like how do you present yourself correctly and word yourself while presenting your work, or like, this is what you accomplished to your manager or your team at the normal level. And second is only after that, after that question's answered, like how resolved in my mind, how do you not oversell? How do you prevent from overselling and focusing on your craft? Because I want to be a good crafty engineer.
That is a really good question to wrap this up. Heng, you want to take a stab at that, and then anybody else?
Yeah. So overselling is not good because people will recognize that. I think that's something to pay attention to. The communication skill is extremely important the higher you go. And I would recommend that every single engineer learn how to be better at communications. And that actually a big distinguishing factor, I would think, as the higher you go for your promotions as well. So yeah, communication is extremely important.
I'll comment on that too. As an engineering leader, I've seen different engineers kind of work on different habits. Communication, obviously, being a huge one, and that's very broad. But to be a little more specific, to me, is really around two things. One, estimation of time. I value an engineer that is a great estimator over someone who can just get the job done. And the reason why is because if we're in a pressure situation and we need to push code out or we need to get a feature done, I'm more apt to go with an engineer that knows their time very well, meaning that they know how long something's going to take. And every time you kind of ping them or you say, hey, what are you up to? They're not saying, I'm super busy, right? Like no engineer should be that busy to where they can't communicate and they can't, do some things that are more artifactual, So I value that as far as on both sides of the table, because I'm an engineer too. And as an engineer, I realized very early the thing that I could leverage and be different from these other engineers with is my time. If I was going to push the extra limit, it had to be on communication or something that communicates that my skills and my organization skills in a project.
And I'd like to also add another thing to that is what I find is that good engineers become great engineers at a lot of these companies, and the gaps that they have are more on the leadership side. And a lot of times I'll recommend to anybody who wants to become technical leadership is to work on their leadership skills. And there's a lot of training, and there's a lot of places to go and learn some of the specifics around that, how to be a strong leader, how to be a visionary, and it's not just about selling yourself, it's about building the leadership underneath you, right? And building the environment of greatness within your company, and shooting above where you want to go. So I just wanted to add that. I can't stress it too much, or enough, I should say.
So, anything that you wanted to add about how do you balance selling versus overselling?
There should never be overselling as such. There should be slow drips, but not overselling. So every so often, highlight your accomplishments in some way or the other. Sometimes subtly, sometimes overtly, and let this promotion decision be like a foregone conclusion. That's the best way to get promoted. You can't imagine yourself showing up at the end of 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 year, and saying that, this is a list of my accomplishments. So some of these things should precede you, so to speak. Let that do the selling more than anything else. The thing is, if you're worried about getting promoted, if you want to really make this easier, faster on you, the better way to do this is to like Doris had said earlier, time it well. And in terms of timing it well, look around, where is the company investing, which orgs are growing, right? That's where you should go and take that chance. In management ladders especially, you will not get promoted if the company is not growing. If you are an IC, you can still get promoted if the company and the BU and the org you are in is not growing, but as a manager you will not get promoted otherwise. So so if you are in the management side, that's where you want to grow, like find orgs that are growing, and then it'll sort of push you with it. In my own experience, exactly the same thing at Box, exactly the same thing at eBay as well. So that's a bit of a hack, but otherwise in terms of selling, don't try and oversell. Let your work do the selling, and you do slow drips all the time.
All right, guys, I think we have already overshot the hour. I want to wrap this up. I want to thank everybody for attending today. All the folks on the stage, Doris, Anthony, Curtis, Heng, Tom, Chao, Suvi. Thank you all for making the time. This has been fun, folks. We will be back next week, same time. I think the next topic, if memory serves me right, that we're covering is a fun one. It's a very important one. It's how to have difficult conversations at work. I think that is what we're covering next. Nonetheless, just follow Soham and I. Click on our profiles. It should be easy to follow. That's the easiest way to get a sense of what we're doing next, when we are doing it. Thank you all for being here, and I look forward to seeing you guys soon. Cheers, guys. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks everyone for staying.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.